The onus is on us to then ensure that we have the right models in place, the right content in place, the right engagement strategy in place to make it easy to engage with us.
Welcome back to my Strategic Selling Group members and all other B2B sales and sales leaders out there. Great to have you, and great to have Kian McLaughlin with me again.
Hello, John. Nice to be here.
Welcome back, Kian.
Thank you.
Hey, I've heard you talk or use the words, be aware of the customer revolution, right? I want to explore that a little bit. What do you mean?
Well, what I mean by that is really that I think a lot of customers out there are getting really sick and tired of some of the outdated sales processes that are impacting them. And by impacting, I mean when they're trying to engage with a vendor or they're trying to potentially buy something or research something, they're on the receiving end of these tactics and strategies which just are not designed in any way with the customer in mind and leave them not just feeling cold, but feeling frustrated, feeling angered, and invariably voting with their wallets or voting with their feet and walking away.
Okay, so if I'm a sales leader or a sales manager or even a salesperson out there,
Yep.
What are some of those things that you think are turning the customer off? Or you know because you're talking to the customers, they tell you.
Well, look, there's a couple of things. We'll start with the concept that content is king, right? We've heard that a lot. So what does that mean? Well, it means that if we're creating really, really good content and we're optimizing it for SEO and we're putting it in the right places and we're making it available to customers, it makes it far easier for them to do the research they want to do before they then engage with us. That stat.
And we're not doing that in a lot of cases.
Unfortunately, we're not. A lot of organizations aren't. And even some of those that are making a fatal mistake. What they're doing is they're gating their content and requiring customers to jump through hoops in order to get access to, you must put in your email address, or you must put in your telephone number, and then you're going to get a call from a telesales or an inside salesperson, and so you're loath to do that. So what they're doing even in that scenario is they're creating really good content, but then they're making it difficult for people to access. So what we need to do is actually invert that paradigm, put all of our really good stuff out there for free to engage our market, to educate our market, and to make it much more likely that they'll then want to work with us.
And you talk about the old adage that most customers are 70% through their sales process before they engage with salespeople. I know you don't believe that.
I think that's complete bullshit. And apologies for the
language.
language.
Strike that out. Yeah.
But I'll tell you the reason why. Because I think it's actually, there's an accurate piece of information behind it, but it's a flawed concept. Because how do customers get 70% of the way down the funnel? Right? They don't get there on their own. They get there through information, through knowledge, through research, through watching content, through consuming content. So what's happening is instead of them engaging with us in the traditional way that they might have done 5-10 years ago, where they picked up the phone and called us, or we went out and met with them, they're getting access to that information another way. So what that means is if we're not putting our information, our content, our insights out there in the right place, in the right way, and it's not being consumed, then you can bet your life that someone else is doing it. So essentially what that means is customers are getting a chunk of the way down the sales funnel, but they're not doing it on their own. They're doing it with access to content, which either comes from us or comes from someone else.
So if they are 70% of the way through their buying journey and they give you a call, what's the message?
Well, the message is, firstly, how did you get to where you're at? And if how you got to where you're at didn't relate to content that you consumed from our organization, we're in serious trouble. And I'd be qualifying pretty hard to see if there really is an opportunity or if they've potentially already made up their mind. Because that's another thing which is really very, very subtle. But the more content you consume from an organization, the more engaged you are by them. You see them as credible experts, you see them as authorities, you see them as thought leaders. And so therefore, the selling process is happening very subtly behind the scenes. So if they've got that far down the track and they haven't engaged with you up until that point, you might be in trouble.
Okay, so let me try and summarize, and you pull me up if I'm wrong.
Sure.
There's a customer revolution that's occurred.
Yes.
Right? And the customer is buying in a very different way.
Yes.
But they're not waiting till they're 70% through the buying journey to actually engage with they're engaging all the way through with vendors because they're looking at content that people are putting out there of value to help them through the thought process.
Correct. And that's the revolutionary piece. The piece of the puzzle that I think is missing for a lot of organizations is where that engagement is occurring and what the onus is on us to then ensure that we have the right models in place, the right content in place, the right engagement strategy in place to make it easy to engage with us, to make it easy to learn from us, and not worry about will the competition see it, worry about will the customer see it or will they not see it. That needs to be the onus of responsibility.
So this is a message to salespeople, I guess, but also to selling organisations, to the sales leaders and so on, and to the marketing organisations. You really need to think about how the customer is now buying. They've gone through a revolution, and you need to be engaging with them in a different way, through content in this case.
Correct.
To ensure that as they move through their thought process and their buying journey, we're with them all the way and helping them through that. Even if we haven't, talk to them face to face.
Correct. There's a really lovely story about Jeff Bezos from Amazon and the fact that when he has meetings, he always leaves a chair free in the meeting room to denote the customer, because the customer needs to be at the center of everything that Amazon does or that we do. And I think if you take that concept and apply it to all the different aspects of your business, it drives a different behavior. All of a sudden, we have the heart of a teacher. All of a sudden, we want to add value, and we become almost consultants and advisors, as distinct from just salespeople. And I know intrinsically those two things should be the same, but often they're not.
And that really helps us get our intent right, doesn't it?
Correct.
Our intent should be for the customer. Even when we've got a meeting here that we've got a complaint about how the customer's not working with us or whatever, when we're using the words internally, we've got to be assuming the customer's with us, and that will drive the right intent to ultimately get the message to the customer.
Agreed.
Kian, Customer Revolution. I like the concept. Great messages there, and to all our sales leaders and salespeople out there, hope you got some value out of that. Look forward to having Kian again.
Thanks, John. Nice to be here.